Hello my dear friends. Today we are going to discuss regarding the model question paper, mainly majorly which is of what Karnataka school examination and assessment board, right? So here that is SLC model question paper 1 2024-25. Mainly here we are going to discuss here with respect to the science, that is biological part, right? So we'll go ahead with respect to the what questions over here, right? So with respect to these such kind of questions, like mainly what they have mentioned is the type of what reproduction during the plasmodium, and they have given what different types of what options here. So some of the part of this particularly, like what you have a multiple choice question, somewhere you have to fill up the something called as what the incomplete sentences too. That is what majorly we call it as filling the blanks, right? So we'll go ahead with respect to this. That is the type of what reproduction during the plasmodium is either it is budding, fragmentation, vegetative propagation, or multiple fission, right? So we'll try to understand what exactly this is. Right. So mainly if you consider the plasmodium does follow the what asexual method of what reproduction. So majorly what we know is organisms mainly they are going to reproduce either by means of what sexual mode of what reproduction, or else they will reproduce by means of asexual method of what reproduction. So here if you consider with respect to the what the particularly plasmodium actually follows what asexual method of what reproduction. So plasmodium reproduces here by means of what multiple fission. So answer is what here it reproduces by means of what the particularly multiple fission. Understanding? Then if you consider like the nucleus here, how the particularly multiple fission is going to take place. Here what happens, the nucleus produces many nuclei by undergoing what a division. Then later period what will happen, the nuclei result in the formation of what a daughter cells into the what cyst, right? So how it will be like with like what schematically what we are going to understand. Consider this is a plasmodium. Plasmodium has the particularly what nucleus. Now what will happen with respect to the what division, right? So as it is mentioned is what the multiple fission, right? As it is mentioned is what multiple fission. What is going to happen, this nuclei itself is going to what divide, right? So continuous division of what nucleus will lead into the what number of what nuclei inside the particularly what cell. This stage we are going to call it as what cyst. What we are going to call here is it is known to be the what cyst, right? And that cyst has what many nuclei. Later period what will happen, this each nucleus will go on developing something called as what the cell around it, right? So like that of what the particularly the reproduction methodology followed by means of what this particularly plasmodium. What we have to remember, the mode of reproduction is asexual one. Inside the asexual what it is nothing but known to be the multiple fission, right? So we'll go ahead with the next question now, that is question number 27th, right? So majorly here what they are saying is the particularly pyruvate, they have given one schematic type of what representation. The pyruvate with respect to the what mainly muscle cell, majorly inside what the cytoplasm, right? So muscle cells have what X plus energy. They have what X plus what energy. Now what is this X actually? That what we have to answer here. So here what is the option, like what? Here what X represents what they are saying here, right? So option they mentioned it as either it is oxygen or ethanol or lactic acid or the carbon monoxide, right? So majorly if you consider like when we go for what something called as what cardio type of what exercise, during that period what is going to happen, the breathing capacity of what ours is going to increase, or we'll like what carry out faster type of what breathing, and this is due to the what the particularly what of the formation of what a lactic acid, the formation of what lactic acid. So with respect to the answer, if you want to understand here, in muscle cells majorly what is going to happen during anaerobic respiration. Now what happened when you carried out cardio exercise, during that period definitely your breathing is going to what increase, and when breathing increases, what it indicates? It indicates nothing but what? There is a deficiency of what? Oxygen. So what will happen there? Anaerobic type of what? Respiration is going to take place. Now following to that, this pyruvate is going to get converted into what? The lactic acid. It is going to get converted into lactic acid, right? So this process occurs when there is a insufficient oxygen available for aerobic type of what? Respiration, right? So during cardio exercise, majorly what is going to happen? The breathing will what? Increase, and this is due to the what? Majorly insufficient oxygen present into the what? Surrounding, right? So there the formation of what? The particularly what? Lactic acid is going to take place. So here this is X represents what? The particularly lactic acid, right? Then next question we will see regarding this, right? So what we have to do is we have to observe the diagrams carefully, right? Later period then we have to go and answer something called as what? Regarding whatever the left part, right? So try to understand first question, that is nothing but what? Observe the female reproductive structure given in a figure A. Means this is one female reproductive structure, which is what? Figure A, and figure B even, right? So there is what? Little bit difference in this particularly, that what we have to, based on that only we have to answer this, right? So the correct statement related to this figure is, that what we have to find out. So before finding out, what we should understand here is to determine the correct statement regarding majorly like what? Fertilization, right? What we know is with respect to the what? Female reproductive system only, what is going to happen? The fertilization is going to take place, right? So here to determine the correct statement regarding what? Fertilization in the structure shown in what? Figure A, and with respect to the what? Figure B, right? So we need to what? Analyze that reproductive structure depict in each figure, right? So reproductive structure what we have to look for, right? So what it is has, it has something called as what? Ovary, then it has something called as what? This particularly fallopian tube, right? So there is no any interruption, then remaining whatever this particularly vaginal part, right? So all type of structures are present inside this particularly figure A, right? But with respect to the figure B, if you consider, so what I am going to find out over here is with respect to this particularly fallopian tube, what they have done is they have cut this particularly what? Fallopian tube, and they have tied, right? Then generally if you consider like fertilization occurs in the oviduct, that is nothing but what we call it as fallopian tube. So here only like what? There will be a fertilization, right? So oviduct is necessary to carry out what? Fertilization, understanding of the particularly what? Female reproductive system. With respect to the what? Figure A represents a structure that includes the oviduct, and figure B does not, right? So oviduct is present inside with respect to the what? The figure A, but oviduct is what? The particularly where they have carried out what? Insertion, right? Or they have cut this particularly what? The particularly fallopian tube, right? Then fertilization is possible only with respect to the what? Figure A, right? Then conversely if you find out with respect to the figure B includes the what? Oviduct, and figure A does not. Consider this even what we can see, like consider if it is what? Vice versa, right? Or what we call it as conversely, right? Then if both the figure includes what? Oviduct, then the fertilization is possible in both. If neither includes it, then the fertilization is not possible in either of them, right? So consider there is no any oviduct in these two diagrams, but there is oviduct in these two diagrams. When there is a oviduct presence, what we are going to say it as, that the fertilization is going to take place. So based on these aspects, including all these aspects, what will be the answer? Like option one by one we will see what they are saying. Fertilization of egg is possible in both of the structure. No, only one. Here only what we are going to find out the fertilization. Here there is no fertilization, as the fallopian tube or oviduct itself is got cut over here, right? Then the fertilization of egg is possible only in the structure of what? Figure B. Here there is no fertilization because oviduct is got cut, right? Then the fertilization of egg is possible only in the structure of what? Figure A. So with respect to this only what we are finding out, that figure A includes something called as what fertilization. Why there is a fertilization? Because there is overall a development of what this particularly developed type of what oviduct or fallopian tube is present. Right here, what they have done is they have cut this. Particularly this methodology, what we are going to call it as, we are going to call it as tubectomy. We are going to call it as tubectomy. Right. So this methodology is known to be what? Tubectomy, right? Then fertilization of egg is not possible in both of the structure. So here with respect to the what A, only figure A, fertilization is going to take place. So what they are saying with respect to the question, the correct statement related to this figure is, so that is nothing but what? Answer C, that is fertilization of egg is possible only in the structure of figure A, right? So answer is what here? C with respect to this particularly question. Right. Then what they have they have asked over here is the simple diagrammatic representation. What they have asked, or they have told you to draw something called as what? Open type of what? Stomata. So here this is answer the what following questions, majorly like what 3 into 1, which carries what 3 marks. Understanding? So draw a diagram of what? Open stomata. So this is known to be the what? Particularly open type of what? Stomata. And this is considered to be what? The closed type of what? Stomata, right? So we'll see here majorly like what, why this is so. Open and closing is based on what actually, right? So opening and closing of the stomata, like consider here, the opening and closing of the stomata depends upon the change in the what? Turgidity of their guard cells. Right. So when there will be opening and when there will be closing, it depends on what? The change in the turgidity of the particularly what? The guard cells. Right. Due to this only like what? Opening and closing is going to get what? Initiate. Right. So due to the absorption of water, now what will happen over here? Due to the absorption of water, cell becomes what? Turgid. When water will enter inside this particularly with respect to the what? This stomatal pore, right? Or with respect to this particularly what? The stomata. Inside the stomata only, what we are going to find out, the water is going to get enter, or stomatal with respect to the stomatal cells. Then what is going to happen? The cell becomes what? Turgid over here, right? There the inner wall are pulled apart apart by their outer wall. Now what will happen? Water is going to get entry inside the particularly what? Stomata, right? Now what will happen? The inner wall is actually pulled out, right? When inner wall is what? Pulled out, who is going to pull out? The particularly this outer wall is going to pull out this particularly the inner wall of this particularly stomata, and that makes what? It makes the gap between the guard cells becomes what? Wider. Now here what we are finding out here, the gap between this particularly is going to be what? Wider. And now at present what? The stomata is what? Open. So for this particularly question, with respect to the what? Draw a diagram of what? Open stomata, what you have to draw is this particularly what? A diagram is itself is necessary, right? So this much is enough. Only the mechanism how it is going to open and how it is going to close, that itself what we have explained here, right? So when guard cells are what? Flaccid, consider like what? There is no any water. Now when we are going to call it as flaccid, due to the what? Loss of water. When there is no any water, then during that period what is going to happen? The cell is going to be what? Flaccid. The outer walls are not stretched. Outer wall is not going to get what? Stretch, right? So their walls, inner walls are not what? Pulled apart, right? Outer wall is not going to stretch, as the particularly cell is flaccid. There is what? Less amount of what? Water being present inside the cell. When cell is flaccid, then the outer wall is not going to stretch what? Inner wall. So definitely what is going to happen? There will not be any pulling, right? So when there is no pulling, then there is a decreasing the what? Gap between the guard cells. So here we are not finding out what? Any gap, right? So gap between the what? Cells and particularly what? Stomata is being what? Closed. Understanding? So here only with respect to this question, this is actually enough, right? Drawing the what? Opened type of what? Stomata, the bean shaped structure known to be the what? Stomata, which actually plays very important role in what? Stomata plays very important role in what? Exchange of gases. It plays very important role in exchange of what? Gases. And even it plays very important role with respect to the what? The particularly transpiration too, right? So as you know, what is transpiration? Loss of water in the form of what? Water droplet, right? So next question, if you consider, that is nothing but what? The sexual reproduction majorly leads to what? More variation, and why? Right. So sexual reproduction majorly leads into what? The variations. That is what they want to ask something like why sexual reproduction leads what? Variations. Variations with respect to the what? Characteristics of an organism. We'll see how this is going to lead into the what? Variations, right? So just we have to give an explanatory answer for this. What we know is the sexual reproduction results in genetic variations, right? Why? Because, or like what? Genetic differences. We are not exactly same as of our parents. We are what? Different from the what? The parents. We are actually resemblance of our parents, understanding? We carried what? Both the character from mother as well as what? The father, right? So here sexual reproduction majorly what is going to happen here? The involvement of what? The two parents. Here what we are finding out? The two parent involvement, right? So because of this only what we are finding out here? The genetic variation or even what? Genetic differences, right? So here between parents and particularly what? Offsprings, then offspring inherit one set of the chromosomes. Offspring is going to inherit one set of chromosome from what? Each parents. Like what we know is the 23 chromosomes are given by means of father, 23 chromosomes are given by means of what? The mother, which makes what? A total chromosomes are what? 46, and which forms homologous pairing. So we represent it as the 223 pairs, right? So an offspring the particularly has a mixture of what? Chromosomes. The offspring has what? The mixture of what? This particularly chromosome and even what? Allele, right? So from its two parents. So because of this only, like what you can find out is sexual reproduction also result in genetic variations among the what? Siblings, right? So now with respect to this, right? So this is actually what this is the reason why what we are finding out over here is the sexual reproduction leads into the what? More variation compared to the what? Asexual reproduction. With respect to the asexual reproduction, there is no any variations actually. Why there is no any variations? Because it is a uniparental type. What it is? It is actually the uniparental type of what? The particularly the reproduction, where only a single parent is what? Involved, right? So with respect to this question only, like we'll stop over here and we'll discuss remaining other part of this particularly what? Question paper into the what? Next video. Please do subscribe our channel and please do what? Watch our videos, right? Thank you so much.